are going to be watching The Deeper You Go, the Creepier Prehistoric Oceans Get. And I'm gonna let you know, as a sea creature, it does get a little scary down here. Let's check it out together.
Ocean wasn't just dangerous. It was a liquid horror show where nightmare creatures with giant eyes stalked through eternal darkness. And some of these monsters are still alive today, lurking in places we've barely explored.
Twitch.tv.
Look, we think the ocean today is scary, which, fair enough. It's got great whites and giant squids and whatever else is down there that we haven't found yet. But prehistoric oceans, those were on a whole different level of...
Dude, I always thought that out in the wild, I guess, like on the land terrain would be very scary for dinosaurs because they like evolve. But is it scarier in the ocean because they didn't feel the need to because they were already OP?
Nope. Picture this. You're in water so deep that sunlight gave up trying to reach you about half a mile ago. The pressure would crush you instantly. The temperature
I forgot that happened.
is just above freezing. And in this pitch black, bone-crushing void, things were living. And not just living, they were thriving.
Experience.
Getting weird, getting big, and getting really, really good at killing stuff. See, back then, the deep ocean was where evolution went completely off the rails. No sunlight meant no plants. So,
dude, it is scary because even nowadays, aren't there so many places of the ocean we haven't seen because of the pressure? So, like, those dinosaurs could be down there right now waiting for someone like you to go swimming a little too deep. And then...
everything down there had to get creative about dinner. Some grew massive eyes to catch the tiniest hint of light. Others just said screw it and went blind altogether. A few decided to even make their own light and wave it around like some kind of underwater serial killer with a flashlight. And
they're always the coolest aesthetic. I think was it in Finding Nemo? I think that was the first time I ever experienced one of the like little danglers where they have the light bulb and then people chase it. It's a very nice memory for me. Well, that sounds weird.
Really messed up part, these weren't just random monsters that showed up for a few million years and then died out. In fact, they were already ancient when dinosaurs were still figuring out how to walk upright. And here's what really gets me. We only know about the ones that left fossils. Most deep sea creatures just dissolve when they die. Their shells get eaten by acid and they vanish without a trace. So for every horrifying prehistoric sea monster that we've found, there's probably a dozen.
So most of them were already really, really ugly. And then they evolved and they're a little less ugly, but that doesn't mean that their mama and papa weren't actually diabolically disgusting. That's not me. That's not me. Huh? I don't know him.
Worse ones that we'll never even know existed. Like, imagine there are 12 creatures.
Okay, this one's kind of cute. I don't know if he's like an SCP or real, but I kind of want to give him a little hug and a boop.
out there even more terrifying than the Megalodon. Deep Ocean back then was essentially a horror movie that ran for 500 million years, starring creatures that would make H.P. Lovecraft throw up, giant eyes staring through eternal darkness, teeth that don't fit in mouths.
It looks like he's in pain. He's like, Michael, you can't leave me on the bottom of the ocean! Michael!
Things that haven't changed their murder strategy since before your great times a million grandmother was even a twinkle in some primordial soup. Meet the Ophthalmosaurus. This thing lived 150 million years ago and had eyes the size of dinner plates. Not small dinner plates either.
Who made this tiny little burger? Is it for tiny little ants?
We're talking full-sized, fancy restaurant dinner plates.
Oh, dude, don't even get me started on the fancy restaurants. It's not even fun. 15 courses? I gotta sit there for 15 courses and what, play with my toes?
Each eyeball was 9 inches across, which is bigger than most basketballs. Now, you might be thinking, oh, big eyes, so what? Well, those massive eyes weren't just for looking pretty. They were for seeing in complete darkness while diving deeper than most nuclear submarines go today. This reptile could hold its breath for over 20 minutes and dive over 3,000 feet down into water so dark you couldn't see your hand in front of your face.
It's just like all the way in the bottom of the ocean, everybody is just playing in the fog of war and there's like no vision. It's like Bronze League of
Why would anything want to do that though? Well, simple. Dinner was down there. The weirdest part is how good it was at this job. While other marine reptiles were splashing around in shallow water eating fish, Ophthalmosaurus was down there in the void, using those massive eyes to spot the faintest glimmer of bioluminescence. Picture something bigger than a dolphin, but built like a torpedo, with eyes so big they had to be reinforced with rings of bone just so they wouldn't collapse under the pressure.
Holy.
And it wasn't even the only one doing this. We found these things all over Europe, so apparently diving into the abyss to hunt tentacled monsters was a popular career choice back then.
So they were fugging, right? Like, if there's so many of them, they were straight up fugging. But how are they fugging in the dark? Like, they don't even know what's going and where or what's happening. They're just, like, guessing.
Which tells you something about how messed up the Jurassic oceans really were. But what if you didn't even need massive eyes to be a nightmare? Phosphorus was only 12 feet long. In the world of prehistoric sea monsters,
I want neck, but not like that.
that's basically a minnow. But here's the thing about this particular minnow. It had forward-facing eyes. You know what else has forward-facing eyes? Owls, hawks, things that hunt and kill other things for a living. Most reptiles have eyes on the sides of their heads because they spend their time trying not to get eaten. Phosphorosaurus, this guy had both eyes pointing straight ahead, giving it depth perception that would make a sniper jealous.
He's kinda
And
cute.
those eyes were huge. Not Ophthalmosaurus huge, but big enough that they probably took up half its skull.
I mean, he probably still had real eyes. Real eyes. Real lies.
Scientists think this little monster was nocturnal. While all the big scary mosasaurs were sleeping off their day of terrorizing everything in sight, Phosphorosaurus was just getting started. It would cruise through the dark waters, using those precision-guided eyes to pick off glowing lanternfish and squid that thought they were safe in the night.
Wait, there's actually glowing fish in the wild? I always saw them at like Petco or Walmart. I don't know if they still sell like fish at Walmart. They used to back in the day. That was actually crazy. Walmart was like your one-stop shop for everything. Fish, worms, guns. They had everything. Oh, and McDonald's. There was this awesome McDonald's back in my Walmart when I was a kid.
The really twisted part is how good it was at this job. We're talking about a reptile that figured out how to be an underwater owl 70 million years before actual owls even existed. It wasn't fast enough to chase down big prey in broad daylight, so it just waited until dark and became the ocean's first serial killer.
Oh, wait, animals are smarter than you think sometimes. Like, they had to pre-plan what they were gonna do and how to have the, like, I guess, most optimal hunting grounds.
And get this, it lived in Japan. So while T-Rex was stomping around on land, the waters off prehistoric Japan were being stalked by this small, precise killer with giant forward-facing eyes, just cruising through the darkness, picking off anything dumb enough to light itself up. Talk about evolutionary specialization.
Cool.
Most mosasaurs were built like buses. This one was built like a scalpel.
I think tank build back in the day is just so big, right? Like, you were gonna get attacked no matter what, so it was probably best to have the most HP.
And of course, some deep sea killers took a more direct approach. Viperfish have teeth so long they stick out of their mouth even when it's closed. These aren't normal teeth. These are straight up fangs that curve back toward the eyes because there's literally nowhere else for them to go. This fish has been perfecting its nightmare look for 15 million years.
So did they, like, give their build to, like, piranhas? Can these fishies, like, eventually evolve into something else, I guess? So, like, maybe it was like, what is it called? Eugenics, like the descendants, and then like maybe they're like so incest filled that they just start fighting everything. Convergent evolution, is that what it's called? Shared common ancestors? I wonder how far it goes though. Like, can they actually be the piranha's big great uncle?
And honestly, it nailed it on the first try. The teeth are so big that if a human had proportional fangs, they would be dragging on the ground when you walked.
I mean, that happens to me, but somewhere else, let's be honest.
But here's where it gets really messed up. Viperfish use these teeth by ramming into their prey at full speed.
Oh,
You'd
they
think hitting
quick!
something tooth first would mess up your skull pretty bad. Well, Viperfish thought of that too. They evolved a built-in crumple zone. The first bone behind their head is basically a shock absorber that keeps their brain from turning into soup every time they spear something.
Oh, this also reminds me of, what is the name of the one fish? It's called like a triggerfish. And I think if you go diving or you go like scubaing, they tell you to be careful because they just go, they just hit you really fast.
So this fish just hangs out in the dark, completely motionless, waiting for something to swim by. Then it fires itself forward and impales whatever was unlucky enough to be in the neighborhood. There's no chase scene. There's no
Nemo, how did that happen?
fancy hunting strategy. Just pure, brutal, lethal efficiency.
Bum,
The
bum,
best
bum,
part,
bum, bum,
they
bum.
do this while glowing. Viperfish have lights all along their belly to camouflage themselves from below. And little fish lure on their back to attract prey from above.
They got that direct TV.
So they're basically a floating death trap with a neon sign that says free food here. And they're still doing this today. Right now, somewhere in the deep ocean, a viperfish is hanging perfectly still with its mouth full of fangs, waiting for dinner to come close enough to murder.
This is gonna sound wild, but I'm happy they made it. Like, they didn't get patched out of the meta. Like, they got to still exist. So WWW, man!
They've been at it for millions of years, and they're not going to be stopping anytime soon.
Go
And they are
hustle.
really scary, but they're not that big compared to the goblin shark, which is also still around today. The goblin shark looks like someone tried to design a shark, but had only ever had a description from someone who'd never seen one.
Huge
Pink skin,
nose.
flabby body, and a snout that looks like it belongs on a different animal entirely.
Why does he look shaved? Not like, you know what I mean? Like, they took off the skin on the outside.
But that's not even the scary part.
What?
The scary part
No, he streams on Twitch? Or I guess it would be Kick. I don't even know.
is what happens when it opens its mouth. The goblin shark can shoot its entire jaw forward about a foot outside its head. Just boom. Suddenly, there's a second mouth where no mouth should be, full of long needle teeth grabbing whatever was unlucky enough to be nearby.
I gotta see him with the Freebird burrito.
This thing has been doing this exact same strategy for 125 million years. We know this because we keep finding fossil goblin sharks that look exactly the same as the ones swimming around today. While everything else is evolving and changing and trying new things,
Oh, this is what I was asking earlier. Yes, yes, yes. I wanted to see like the Mugenics, I guess like, what is it called? Family tree. But when I play Mugenics, it's more of a family ladder.
the goblin shark was just sitting there going, nah, I'm good. This is working fine for me. And why would it change? It lives so deep that nothing bothers it. It just floats around in the dark, waiting for something to swim close enough to its face. Then it fires that jaw out and drags dinner back into its mouth.
See, guys, take his advice. Just be unbothered. Keep up that grind set. Don't worry about what anybody got to say about you and just keep swimming.
No chasing, no fighting, just pure mechanical efficiency. The weirdest part is that we barely ever see them.
Yeah.
They live so deep and are so rare that most people who study sharks for a living have never even seen a living one.
Cammy, thank you for the 5. You didn't have to do that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Can we get Pop Creepies at the top? Pop, 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 pop. Thank you.
But they're down there right now, drifting
They
through the
are?
darkness with their extendable nightmare mouths.
He said down there right now, and this is a really weird segue, but I was thinking, have you guys ever been to one of those places where you put your feet in the water and it's a bunch of fish and they like bite your dead skin off and they digest it and eat it? I've never done it, but I kind of want to try. Like, I want to know what it's like to have a bunch of fish in between your toes, like nibbling on them.
Doing the exact same thing they've been doing since before grass existed. And speaking of sharks, there's another nightmare shark still living today.
Whoa! Okay, his eyeball looks like an emoji.
Frilled sharks look normal until you get up
They
close.
do?
Then you realize this thing has 300 teeth arranged in 25 rows.
I know you're thinking it. And yes, that would be really painful.
Every single one of them is shaped like a tiny trident. When I say tiny, I mean each tooth is still big enough to do some serious damage. This shark is basically a 6-foot-long swimming mouth that's been practicing the same routine for 80 billion years. It moves through the water like an eel, all wavy and smooth, until something gets too close. Then it strikes forward and swallows prey that's half its own size, whole. No chewing, no tearing it apart, just straight down the hatch. The really disturbing part is how good it is at hiding. Frilled sharks live in caves and crevices during the day, then come out at night to hunt.
Dude, everybody is out at night. Like, I'd be out during the day. This is not worth it.
Almost never seen at the surface, so for most of human history, we had no idea they existed. We just kept finding their teeth in ancient rock and assuming they were extinct. Then, in the 1800s, some unlucky fishermen pulled one up and everyone realized these things never left. They've been down there this whole time.
Is that not SSR Gotcha Pool? Dude, he literally was the first person to pull up this fish. That is insane clout in the fishing community, let's be honest.
Slithering through underwater caves and swallowing squid whole while the rest of the world moved on without them. And here's what really gets me. They're still doing it. Right now, somewhere in the deep Atlantic, a frilled shark is probably coiled up in some dark crevice, waiting for night so we can go hunt with the same 300-tooth mouth design that worked perfectly fine when dinosaurs were still walking around.
It's hard for me to be mad at him. Doesn't he look like he's just smiling for first day of school pictures?
300-tooth mouth design that worked perfectly fine when dinosaurs were still walking around. This creature was so good at its job that evolution looked at this 80 million years ago and said, yeah, that's terrifying enough, and just kept it the same way.
I'm so cooked. I literally saw that and I went, yes! I was playing Bellotro today on the treadmill. Get in my deck now!
But some deep sea monsters found even stranger solutions in evolution. Female anglerfish carry around their own personal fishing rod with a glowing lure on the end. They sit perfectly still in total darkness, waving this little light around until something swims over to investigate. Then they open their mouth and swallow whatever was dumb enough to fall for the oldest trick in the book.
Normally when I open my mouth, that's when people realize I was dumb enough to fall for the oldest trick in the book.
That's not the weird part though. The weird part is what happens when a male anglerfish finds a female.
Are we about to watch fish corn? Am I allowed to watch this? Only fish?
He bites onto her and then never lets go. Ever.
Aww, wait, he kind of anxious attachment just like me.
In fact, his mouth fuses to her skin, his blood vessels connect to hers, and he basically becomes a permanent sperm-producing tumor on the side of her body.
Okay, I was about to say I need someone like that, and then I changed my mind. Never mind.
This has been going on for 50 million years, by the way.
What? I thought that was her dang-a-lang. But that's her man? Oh my god. Victor, thanks for the 200 bits. That fish reminded me of my ex for real. Your ex was a sperm-producing machine? Okay.
These things are ancient. That was 50 billion years of males biting onto females and becoming living, breathing reproductive organs. The females are totally fine with this arrangement because finding a mate in the endless black void of the deep ocean is basically impossible.
They're desperate! Nah, this is toxic as hell, let's be honest. What? They are so desperate they'll take anything?
Otherwise, just like my dating life, the male doesn't even have a functioning digestive system once he attaches. He just hangs there, getting all his nutrients from the female's bloodstream, waiting.
Oh my god, what a leech! Free house, free food, coom as much as you want? Dude, he's living the dream.
For her to need his services. Some females have multiple males attached at once.
Oh! Menage a trois?
Which means they're swimming around with several zombie boyfriends grafted to their bodies. Evolution looked at the problem of finding mates in infinite darkness and said, you know what, let's just make all the males into parasites. And it worked so well that there are now dozens of different anglerfish species all doing the exact same horrifying thing.
Nah, they patched it in. The harem patch. Are you for real?
The female does all the hunting, all the surviving, all the work, while carrying around what are essentially biological sperm banks that used to be an independent fish. It's the most one-sided relationship in the animal kingdom, and for some reason, both parties seem completely happy with it. But anglerfish weren't the first to thrive in impossible places. To find that creature, we need to go back to the beginning. 430 million years ago, the ocean floor was splitting open and spewing out water so hot it should have killed everything for miles around.
What is Mariana's Trench? It's not that, is it? And it's like a band? What is that, or a song? What is... Oh, it's the deepest known part of the Earth's oceans and the deepest location on the planet. Located in the Western Pacific east of the Mariana Islands and is a crescent-shaped scar over 2,500 kilometers long. I don't know what that means. Oh, plunging roughly 11,000 meters. Oh, 36,000 feet! Yeah. Okay, never mind, we're good.
Instead, worms moved in and built cities. Now, these weren't normal worms. They were tube worms that figured out how to live next to underwater volcanoes by making friends with bacteria. The bacteria would eat the poisonous chemicals coming out of the vents, and the worms would eat the bacteria. Everyone was happy except for anything that tried to live anywhere else on the sea floor, because it was basically a chemical wasteland. We know this happened because we keep finding fossilized worm tubes in ancient rocks.
They kind of look like pasta. And I'm kind of hungry. Someone throw some Alfredo on that and let me give it a little...
that formed around these volcanic vents. Thousands of tubes, all clustered together around what used to be black smokers shooting out 700-degree water.
Damn! The bidet from hell!
Had no eyes, no mouths, and no way to catch food on their own. They just sat there in their tubes, letting their bacterial roommates do all the work. In fact, they're doing the exact same setup in the exact same places, with the exact same species of bacteria 400 million years later. And
okay, call me mentally ill, but does that not look like that Pokemon? Bruxious? The one with the beautiful lips?
Tube worms are still the only things tough enough to live right next to underwater lava geysers. The really wild part is that these vent sites don't last very long. The volcanoes shut off, the chemistry changes, and the whole community has to pack up and find a new vent somewhere else.
No!
Somehow, these worms have been playing this game of volcanic musical chairs for nearly 500 million years.
That's actually really impressive. Like, I don't know, to just constantly be evolving and changing and then moving is a lot to ask from a tube.
Most creatures spend their time trying to avoid getting cooked alive. Tube worms spent 430 million years perfecting the art of living inside a natural pressure cooker and turning poison into dinner.
Tubular.
And speaking of ancient survivors, some fish took
the Pokemon
hiding to ridiculous extremes. In 1938, a museum curator got a phone call about a weird fish that had been caught off the coast of South Africa. She went to look at it and immediately knew she was staring at something that was supposed to be extinct for 66 million years. The Coelacanth had been playing the ultimate game.
Wait, that's how you say it, Coelacanth? Why the hell have I been saying Coelacanth my entire life? And I'm an English native speaker!
Of hide and seek. While everyone else was dealing with asteroid impacts and ice ages and whatever other disasters were happening on the surface, Coelacanths just moved into some deep underwater caves and decided to sit this whole modern era thing out. Scientists have been finding Coelacanth fossils for decades, going all the way back to fish that lived 360 billion years ago. They figured these things died out with the dinosaurs.
Okay, I have a really dumb question and I would love to hear the answer because I like to educate myself. So, if there is like meteor, does that not make the water hot too? Like, how did the animals in the water survive? Or like, if there's an ice age, wouldn't the water be really cold? Like, there's still like things they have to adapt to, but they just like tanked it? Oh, they just go so deep it doesn't matter. They're deep as fuck. Yeah, like, look, guys, it's okay to be deep. It's okay to have deep conversations. It'll save you in the end.
Turns out they just got really good at avoiding people. They were hanging out in caves 600 feet down, coming out at night to hunt, and basically living the exact same lifestyle their great times a million grandparents have been living since before trees existed. The fish that got caught in 1938 caused such a big deal that they put out a reward for anyone who could find another one.
Bounty.
In fact, it took 14 years to find a second fish that had supposedly been extinct since the Cretaceous period.
Oh, they didn't have rainbow yet. That was definitely way too difficult for the time period.
That's some next level hiding skills right there. And when they finally studied living coelacanths, they found out these fish hadn't bothered to evolve much of anything in all that time.
I mean, why?
Same weird fins, same weird skulls, and the same weird way of giving birth to live babies and
What? They just torpedo shoot him out their hoo-ha? Oh my god, I'm not used to that. Also, he actively gave birth on top of me.
instead of laying eggs. So while everything else was evolving, adapting, and trying new things, coelacanths were in their caves going, nah, I'm good, I'll see you in a couple million years. The other ancient creatures took a different approach to survival in the oceans.
Ooh.
Imagine walking through a forest where every single tree is actually an animal. Oceans. Imagine walking through a forest where every single tree is actually an animal.
You guys mind if I bark?
Well, that's what the ancient sea floor looked like when sea lilies were running the show. These things grew 60 feet tall and swayed in the current with their feathery arms spread out to catch food floating by.
Like this.
They weren't lilies and they weren't plants. They were animals that just happened to look like underwater flowers.
Oh, and I'm not a berry or a crepe. Okay, we're just lying on the internet.
And they covered the ocean floor in dense forests that stretched for miles. Some of these underwater trees were taller than a 6-story building. All of them stuck to the seafloor by their roots and waving their arms around trying to catch dinner. The crazy part is how successful this strategy was. For hundreds of millions of years, being a giant underwater flower was apparently the way to go. Sea lily fossils are so
Whoa. It's kind of weird seeing them with fingers. Like, I couldn't imagine that they had bones on the inside like that. Like, I did need an x-ray. Thank you for showing me that. That's cool.
common that entire limestone cliffs are made out of nothing but their broken stems and arms.
Whoa! Is that not some Dark Souls type shit? Walking into a cave made of fingers?
Whole mountains of dead sea lily parts.
That's cool.
Most of them got wiped out during the big extinction at the end of the Permian period, but a few species said, you know what, we're just gonna move deeper, and they kept doing their thing in the abyss.
Smart.
We didn't even know they were still alive until the 1800s when someone finally dragged one up from the deep ocean. Today, there are still sea lilies down there, doing the exact same thing they've been doing for 300 billion years, standing around on the seafloor, waving their arms in the current, catching whatever floats by. They're not as tall as they used to be, and there aren't nearly as many of them, but they're still out there being living flowers in the bottom of the ocean. Talk about sticking with what works. Now we're about to talk about my favorite prehistoric marine reptile, the Abyssaurus.
Whoa! He's really cute. I feel like if you played like a old school game where you had to be in like dinosaur era, you would use him to like ride across the water. Wait, is that what Lapras is based on?
Abyssaurus literally means bottomless lizard, which is probably the most metal name any prehistoric reptile ever got. And unlike most dinosaur names that sound way cooler than the actual animal, this one earned it.
What was that one's name?
And unlike most dinosaur
Whoops. Draco Rex Hogwartsia. Wingardium Leviosa!
or names that sound way
What the
cooler than
hell?
the actual animal, this one earned it. This thing was a plesiosaur that looked at the deep ocean, decided that's where it wanted to live permanently. Not just visit for hunting trips, but full-time residency in the abyss. So it evolved the heaviest bones of any marine reptile ever found.
Look at him splayed out like that! Dude, he's huge!
Found dense, thick bones that worked as built-in weights to drag it down into the darkness.
Wow.
Most marine reptiles had lightweight bones to help them float and swim efficiently. Abyssaurus went the opposite direction and basically turned its skeleton into a lead vest. It wanted to sink, and it wanted to
That's so smart though. Like just to be so chunky that you can basically go down into the depths of the ocean for free?
stay sunk. This thing had lungs the size of barrels to hold enough air for extended deep dives.
Also, I didn't hear thick either. I wasn't gonna say anything because I'm not a gooner and I don't want you guys to hear me that way or see me that way, but that did not sound like thick.
Then it would just drop like a rock into water so deep that the pressure would crush a human instantly.
Oh!
Down there in the total darkness, it would cruise just above the seafloor with those massive eyes scanning
Captain Obvious be like,
darkness. It would cruise just above the seafloor with those massive eyes scanning for anything dumb enough to be wandering around in the void. Small head, long neck, perfect for darting forward and grabbing squid or fish before they knew what hit them. And this wasn't just some weird experiment that lasted a few thousand years.
Okay.
Abyssaurus was doing this for millions of years in the early Cretaceous. Well,
damn, he's experienced. He's been solo queuing for a while.
other plesiosaurs were splashed.
You can't see him. I'm going to show you. I'm going to move my head right now, and you're going to see why I screamed. He looks absolutely terrifying right here. Like, he needs to put those chompers away. What the hell?
Around in shallow lagoons, this one was hanging out in the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean.
Dude, he said lagoon, and it made me think of something called Blue Bayou. And Blue Bayou is in Louisiana, and it's a water park there that was going to get shut down. And every time I had ever been there, it was because the reason they wanted to shut it down was because people kept pooping in the water. There was a lot of poop at Blue Bayou.
Living a lifestyle that wouldn't be out of place in a horror movie. The name says it all. Bottomless lizard. It's also got like the coolest name of any dinosaur out there. It's a marine reptile, but it's got the similar naming structure as dinosaurs. It literally went to the bottom and then just said, "This is my home now." But further north, things got even weirder in the oceans.
Why is he censored?
Ophthalmothule lived near the Arctic Circle 145 million years ago.
They kind of look like each other. Like, I feel like they would be friends.
Which meant it had to deal with months of total darkness during the polar winter.
Damn!
Most reptiles would have called that a deal breaker. Ophthalmothule saw it as a business opportunity.
Corpa.
This plesiosaur had huge eyes that pointed straight up at the ceiling of the ocean. It spent its entire life staring at the surface, waiting for something to swim overhead so it could see the silhouette against whatever tiny bit of light was filtering down.
Oh, isn't this also why sharks sometimes attack people? It's not because they think that they're people, but it's surfers, and then they're like swimming out and they look like seals, so they're hungry and they just eat them.
When it found something up there, it would rise up from the bottom like some kind of underwater horror movie monster and grab whatever was unlucky enough to be swimming above it. But here is the really weird part. Scientists have found rocks in this thing's stomach.
Wait, what? Maybe he thought they were chocolate rocks?
Not fish bones, not squid beaks, but rocks. The name Ophthalmothule means eye of the north, which is pretty accurate considering it was basically a swimming eyeball that lived at the North Pole. But long before any of these monsters existed, something made a terrible decision.
Maybe he was also eating rocks so that way he could go farther down because he's like weighing down his tummy, and then they go brah, 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 brah.
Trilobites had the best eyes in the ocean for 200 million years.
Really?
They had compound eyes with perfect crystal lenses that could see better than most creatures alive today.
You probably would want that. Anytime we watch a fish video, I say the scariest part is that you have to look above you, below you, and to the sides because anything could be coming from anywhere. So this is actually super OP.
Then some of them looked at the deep ocean and decided to throw all of it away. They just gave up sight entirely. They now had smooth blank spaces where their amazing eyes used to be. No pupils, no lenses, nothing. They voluntarily became blind and moved into the darkest parts of the ocean, where they spent the next few 100 billion years feeling around in the mud for dead things to eat.
They were like a fish Roomba.
This wasn't some gradual evolutionary process either. These things had perfectly good eyes.
Dude, they're so cute! They look like little slivers! I think that's what they were called in Magic.
Then their descendants just didn't. It was like something decided that seeing was overrated and crawling around blind on the seafloor was a better lifestyle choice. Obviously, there was an advantage to it.
Is that Kumi's ass? Did I just get hit with Kumi's ass, friend?
That is the whole point of evolution, where new traits that emerge that are beneficial lead to the species surviving. So there was a reason. And apparently it worked out pretty well for them because blind trilobites were everywhere in the deep ocean. Thousands of them all feeling their way around the darkness with their antennae, bumping into each other, stepping on dead fish, living their best lives without any idea what anything actually looked like.
Do you think they're also susceptible to that thing that happens to ants? But that's more like pheromones. Like if you see ants running in a circle, they basically have lost track of where they're supposed to go. And eventually they just keep running and running and running until they die of exhaustion. And I feel like that's something that could happen to these guys too, since they're basically in like a line leader situation.
In fact, they survived multiple mass extinctions this way. If you can't see the asteroid coming, there's no point in worrying about it. The last trilobites on Earth were probably the blind deep sea ones, still crawling around in the mud, still feeling for food with their antennae.
Thank you, McPow! Wow, for the 200 bits. What up, Octo Lady? We digging into childhood videos? Yeah, we watching videos about dinosaurs. I be loving the dinosaurs. They're cool.
Completely unaware that they're still crawling around in the mud, still feeling for food with their antennae. Completely unaware that they were the final members of one of the most successful animal groups in Earth's history.
Oh.
Sometimes ignorance really is bliss. Today's deep ocean has its own version of unstoppable scavengers.
Dude, I kind of want to eat him. Like, he looks like one of those delicious bugs from The Lion King when they go, like, he is squishy.
That look like creepy bugs. Giant isopods are what happens when you take a regular pill bug and feed it nothing but protein powder and steroids for 30 million years. These things are the size of footballs and can go 5 years without eating.
Whoa, wait, are they related to lobsters?
Years. These things
because they have like the same tail. Like, that looks like a lobster tail. Are they related?
5 years without eating. 5 years. That is nuts.
Wow. 5 years, man? And they are really cute. There's something about them that's very appealing. Do you think people have isopod pets? Do you think I could have an isopod pet?
They also look creepy as hell. They're
cute.
A giant isopod in captivity that didn't eat.
Oh, look at him, dude. I know I keep bringing up Pokemon, but he looks like a Pokemon.
For half a decade and then died. Probably just to prove a point to humans that we don't deserve to keep them.
Look, you can even pick them up.
They live on the deep ocean floor where food is so scarce that when something finally dies and sinks down to their level, it's like Christmas morning. Hundreds of these massive ocean bugs will detect the smell from miles away and come swarming over to the carcass like the world's most disturbing
live isopod reaction.
Family reunion. Once they find a dead whale or fish, they'll gorge themselves until they are so stuffed they can barely move. Literally, it is like Christmas dinner. Then they
That's like their golden corral.
will just sit there for months, maybe years, slowly digesting their meal while waiting for the next thing to die and fall from above. The weirdest part is how good they are at waiting. Most animals would starve to death in a few weeks without food. Giant isopods have turned waiting into art form.
Look at his little
They'll sit
legs.
perfectly still on the sea floor, doing absolutely nothing for longer than most people have been alive. And when they do finally encounter a predator, they just roll up into a ball and wait for it to go away.
Oh, so they have tank build. They also have don't need to really eat that much build, which could be a part of the tank build. They're kind of OP in a little bit of a sense. I mean, could anybody eat them though? Like, do they have people that are going out of their way to eat the isopods? I mean, I don't know. I saw earlier that they would probably taste good, but the other animals probably not. They're just probably way too tough.
No running, no fighting, just full-on defensive mode.
They just sit there.
Gets bored and leaves.
Yeah, they're gonna be bored.
Essentially the ocean's version of that friend who deals with problems by pretending they don't exist. 30 million years of
Avoidant king.
evolution, and their survival strategy is eating once every few years and hiding from their problems. But even those survivors look normal compared to what came next.
Ew, that's like a worm, man. My parents thought I had a worm for a long time because when I was a kid, I would just eat and eat and eat and eat and eat, and then I wouldn't gain weight, and they thought that I had a tapeworm called Stanley. But to be honest, that kind of went away when I turned 20, which is sad. I really miss that. Now I actually have to pay attention.
Scientists found a fossil that looked like someone had bent a giant squid shell into a paperclip and decided that was a perfectly reasonable way to live for 200 years. That's Diplomoceras, and yes, you heard that right. It lived for 200 years. This thing outlived entire dinosaurs known to live long, while shaped like office supplies. There are very few things on Earth that can live longer than 200 years.
Dude, that turtle lived 177 years? I always feel bad for them. Like, imagine if they had like a best friend human and they just had to see all their best friend humans go away and go away and go away, which is why I would never, ever, ever want to be like eternally living, because you're basically gonna be sad forever.
I can only name like the Greenland shark off the top of my head. Not a lot of things have ever lived that long. Most ammonites curled their shells into tight spirals because that's efficient and makes sense. Diplomoceras looked at that design and said, actually, what if I just grew in a big U shape instead? Then it proceeded to float around in the ancient ocean for 2 centuries, looking like a 10-foot tall paperclip with tentacles.
I'm sorry, those things started attacking me. I was kind of scared.
Shell shape was so weird that when paleontologists first found these fossils, they thought they were looking at multiple different animals that had somehow gotten stuck together. Nobody could believe that one creature would voluntarily grow itself
Bro is so confused.
into that shape and then live with the consequences for 200 years. But apparently the paperclip lifestyle worked out great. Diplomoceras would float vertically in the water with its head hanging down from the bottom of the U, just hovering there and grabbing whatever swam by. And they did this for a very long time. The same individual ammonite floating in the same spot, shaped like a paperclip, for longer than Canada has existed as a country.
Dude, I think Canada is the second most populated, or I guess it wouldn't be populated. It would be like second most viewership that I have is from Canada. Hi, Canadians! Hello, 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 hello!
They counted the growth rings in the shell and found 200 of them, which means this thing was already ancient when it was still alive. Evolution spent millions of years perfecting the spiral shell design, then Diplomoceras showed up and decided to reinvent the wheel as a pretzel. Yet even that weirdness pales next to the ocean's first aliens.
Charnia? Brother, that's like bread.
Charnia. 565 million years ago, before there were fish, before there were any sharks, before there were basically any animals you would recognize, the deep ocean floor was covered in things that looked like they'd been designed by
No, you're lying. You're lying. No flared base. Be careful.
aliens who had never seen Earth life before. Charnia was a 2-meter tall feather.
Okay, that one looks a little suspicious over there. Nah, the fish be getting freaky with that. What the hell is that?
Made of living tissue that had no mouth, no stomach, no eyes, and no way to move.
Okay, I'm starting to get it now.
Just stood there on the seafloor, swaying the current, absorbing nutrients directly through its skin from the surrounding water for tens of billions of years. No predators existed yet, so nothing bothered it. No competition for food, so it didn't need to hunt. No reason to evolve quickly, so it stayed exactly the same, doing exactly nothing that for longer than complex life has existed anywhere else.
I'm starting to see do nothing is very OP. I'm actually living the most OP lifestyle, and I am just following my ancestors.
These things covered the ancient seafloor in vast fields. Thousands of them, all identical, all motionless. All just standing there absorbing chemicals from seawater while the rest of Earth figured out what evolution was supposed to be doing.
Can you please pause stream real quick? I have to unpack groceries. You better hurry. Yeah, one trip, please. He's gonna be like, I went to Costco, sorry. I'm sorry, I was lying.
They had fractal patterns built into their bodies that repeated at every level of magnification. Perfectly mathematical designs that wouldn't look out of place in a computer program. Except this was 500 million years before computers, or math, or anything that should have been able to create patterns that precise even existed.
No math, no computers, no cool math games. What's the point?
When Charnia finally went extinct, it left no descendants. Nothing alive today is even remotely related to it. It was an evolutionary experiment that ran for 30 million years.
Dude, they literally made it in Spore and then they deleted the save file. That is so sad. That actually makes me sad because my dad used to have Gamefly. And if you don't know what Gamefly is, that you would order games online and then they would mail them to you, but you had them for like a month and you had to send them back. And I remember that my dad ordered me Pokemon and he was like, you gotta give me the cartridge back. We gotta send it back to Gamefly, and I cried.
Then it completely vanished, leaving only fossils to prove it ever existed. The deep ocean's first complex life forms were alien feathered creatures with fractal patterns that fed by standing perfectly still and absorbing nutrients from them. Honestly, there are probably millions more of animal species even weirder we don't even know about.
Like you.
Because that is the scary
Not him, I meant the person watching this video. No offense to that guy.
part about the prehistoric ancient ocean. There are so many species we've found, and yet there are so many we haven't. There are probably monsters that once lived down there that we would think were aliens of how crazy they are.
Yeah.
What do you think is still down there today? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this. And
I love your video, I love dinosaurs!
if you want to watch another video of mine, you should watch the video on the screen now.
Thank you you so much for watching. I super appreciate it. If you're new here, please check out the original video and use code Berry for 10% off your gamer subs order. I would appreciate it. Thank you. And come by the Twitch stream, twitch.tv/BerryCrepe. Calling out